Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's session. I'm excited to introduce our topic, Applied Anatomy for BSc Nursing first-year students. Today, we'll be focusing on the KUHS syllabus, specifically the respiratory system. Over the next few minutes, we'll explore the structure and function of the respiratory system, which is essential for understanding how we breathe and how to care for patients with respiratory issues. Let's get started. The respiratory system plays a crucial role in our body by enabling gas exchange between the environment and our tissues. Specifically, it allows oxygen, or O2, to enter the body and carbon dioxide, or CO2, to be expelled. This process is essential for maintaining proper cellular function. You see, without this gas exchange, our cells wouldn't be able to produce the energy they need to keep us alive. This exchange is also vital for maintaining acid-base balance in the body, which helps keep our blood pH stable. So, in essence, the respiratory system isn't just about breathing. It's about supporting our overall health and ensuring our cells get what they need to function efficiently. This is a key foundation for understanding how our body stays in balance and keeps us energized and healthy. Let's take a closer look at the functions of the respiratory system. First, pulmonary ventilation, or breathing, is the process of moving air in and out of the lungs, which is fundamental for bringing oxygen into our bodies and removing carbon dioxide. Next, gas exchange occurs in the alveoli, where oxygen moves into the blood and carbon dioxide moves out, ensuring our tissues receive the oxygen they need. Gas transport then refers to how oxygen and carbon dioxide are carried through the blood to and from the lungs and tissues. This involves red blood cells and hemoglobin. Regulation of blood is another critical function, as the respiratory system helps maintain the acid-base balance by adjusting the levels of carbon dioxide in the blood. Moving beyond gas exchange, the respiratory system also plays a role in voice production. Think of how our vocal cords work during speaking and singing. Additionally, olfaction, or the sense of smell, is facilitated by the nasal cavity, allowing us to detect and interpret odors. All these functions highlight how integral the respiratory system is to overall health and homeostasis, supporting not just breathing, but a range of vital processes that keep us functioning optimally. Now, let's take a closer look at the organs of the respiratory system, which are divided into two main sections, the upper and lower respiratory tracts. The upper respiratory tract includes the nose, nasal cavity, pharynx, and larynx. These structures are primarily involved in filtering, warming, and humidifying the air we breathe in, as well as serving as pathways for air to reach the lungs. Moving on to the lower respiratory tract, we have the trachea, bronchi, bronchioles, and lungs. These components are responsible for the actual exchange of gases, oxygen entering the blood and carbon dioxide being expelled. The trachea acts as a main airway, splitting into bronchi that lead into each lung, then further dividing into smaller bronchioles, which distribute air throughout the lung tissue. Understanding these organs and their functions helps us see how the respiratory system as a whole supports life by ensuring our bodies get the oxygen they need and remove waste gases efficiently. This division into upper and lower parts emphasizes how different structures work together seamlessly to facilitate respiration. Let's take a closer look at the nose and nasal cavity. The nose, of course, is the external part that we see, and it includes the nostrils through which air enters and exits. Inside, we have the nasal cavity, which is divided right down the middle by a structure called the septum. This division helps support the nose and separates the two sides of the cavity. Now, the nose and nasal cavity serve several important functions. They act as the first line of defense for our respiratory system by filtering out dust, pollutants, and other particles from the air we breathe. They also warm and moisten the air to make it suitable for the lungs. Plus, the nasal cavity is crucial for our sense of smell, which plays a big role in taste and detecting danger. And, interestingly, the nose and nasal cavity also contribute to speech resonance, helping us produce the sounds we need for clear communication. Overall, understanding the structure and functions of the nose and nasal cavity highlights how essential they are not just for breathing, but for our overall sensory experience and communication. Let's take a closer look at the pharynx, which is often referred to as the throat. The pharynx is a muscular tube, approximately 12 centimeters long, that plays a crucial role in our body. It connects the nasal cavity to the larynx and esophagus, serving as a passageway for both air and food. The pharynx is divided into three parts: the nasopharynx, which is located behind the nose, the oropharynx, situated behind the mouth, and the laryngopharynx, near the larynx. These divisions help us understand how air and food are directed to their respective pathways. The main function of the pharynx is to act as a conduit, allowing air to flow into the respiratory system and food to move toward the digestive system. This dual function is vital for our survival and efficient functioning of both respiratory and digestive processes. Throughout this presentation, we'll see how this interconnected structure is essential for everyday activities like breathing, swallowing, and speaking. Let's take a closer look at the larynx, or as it's commonly called, the voice box. It's situated between the pharynx and the trachea, acting as a critical passageway for air. The larynx is made up of several cartilages, including the thyroid, cricoid, and epiglottis. The thyroid cartilage is the prominent part often seen in the throat, while the cricoid sits just below it, providing support. The epiglottis is a leaf-shaped cartilage that plays a vital role in preventing aspiration. It covers the opening of the larynx during swallowing, ensuring that food and liquids don't go down the wrong pipe. Inside the larynx, you'll find the vocal cords. These are essential for producing sound, allowing us to speak, sing, and communicate. The larynx's primary functions are not only to facilitate breathing, but also to protect the airway and enable phonation. So, in essence, the larynx is a complex yet fascinating structure that plays a crucial role in both respiration and communication, tying into the overall theme of how our respiratory and vocal systems work together seamlessly. Let's take a closer look at the trachea, which is often called the windpipe. It's about 10 to 12 centimeters long, connecting the larynx to the bronchi. The trachea is supported by C-shaped cartilaginous rings that help keep it open and maintain its structure, allowing air to pass through easily. These rings are flexible but sturdy, which is essential for proper airflow. Inside, the lining is made up of ciliated mucosa. These tiny hair-like structures, called cilia, play a crucial role in removing dust and other particles from the air we breathe in. They act like a cleaning system, sweeping debris upward toward the throat so it can be swallowed or expelled. Finally, the trachea splits into two main branches, the right and left bronchi, that lead into each lung. This division is a key part of the respiratory pathway, ensuring air is directed properly into each lung for gas exchange. Overall, the trachea is a vital part of our respiratory system, serving as the main airway from the larynx down to the lungs. Now, let's take a closer look at how the bronchi branch into smaller airways. The main bronchi split into bronchioles, which are much narrower passages. These bronchioles then lead to what we call the bronchial tree, a complex network that ensures air can reach all parts of the lungs. The very end of this tree are the alveoli, tiny air sacs where gas exchange actually happens. This entire pathway is crucial because it not only conducts air deep into the lungs, but also helps regulate airflow, ensuring that the right amount of air reaches the alveoli at the right time. When we think about the respiratory system, understanding this branching system is key because it highlights how efficiently our lungs are designed to maximize oxygen intake and carbon dioxide removal. So, the bronchi and bronchioles are really the highway system of the lungs, guiding air precisely where it needs to go. Now, let's take a closer look at the lungs, which are these pair of cone-shaped organs located in the thoracic cavity. They are covered by a double-layered membrane called the pleura, with the visceral layer directly on the lung surface and the parietal layer lining the chest wall. This arrangement helps reduce friction as the lungs expand and contract during breathing. On the right side, the lung is divided into 3 lobes, which makes it slightly larger, while the left lung has only 2 lobes and features a cardiac notch, an indentation to accommodate the heart. An essential point to remember is that alveoli are the functional units of the lungs. These tiny air sacs are where gas exchange really happens, oxygen entering the blood and carbon dioxide leaving it. So overall, the lungs' structure supports their vital role in respiration, coordinating anatomy and function to sustain life. Let's take a closer look at the lungs diagram here. As you can see, the lungs are a pair of spongy, air-filled organs located on either side of the chest. They are essential for breathing, allowing us to exchange oxygen and carbon dioxide with the environment. The structure of the lungs includes the bronchi, which are the main passageways that lead air into each lung, and smaller branches called bronchioles that distribute the air throughout the lung tissue. The tiny air sacs, known as alveoli, are where the actual gas exchange happens. Oxygen enters the blood, and carbon dioxide is expelled. Understanding this anatomy is key because it highlights how vital healthy lung function is for overall well-being. Remember, the efficiency of this process directly impacts our energy levels, immune health, and even our ability to recover from respiratory illnesses. So, when we think about lung health, we're really talking about maintaining the integrity of this complex but beautifully designed system. Let's take a closer look at the tiny air sacs in our lungs, called alveoli. These small structures are where the crucial process of gas exchange happens. Each alveolus is surrounded by a dense network of capillaries, which are tiny blood vessels that facilitate the transfer of oxygen into the blood and the removal of carbon dioxide from it. The lining of these alveoli is made up of simple squamous epithelium, a very thin type of tissue that allows gases to pass through easily. This thin barrier is essential for efficient gas exchange. Now, one of the key features that keep these alveoli functioning properly is a substance called surfactant. Surfactant reduces surface tension within the alveoli, preventing them from collapsing, especially during exhalation when the lungs deflate. So, in summary, alveoli are the vital structures where oxygen enters our blood and carbon dioxide leaves. Their unique structure and the presence of surfactant are fundamental to maintaining healthy, efficient breathing. Let's take a closer look at the muscles involved in respiration. The primary muscles are the diaphragm and the external intercostals. The diaphragm is our main muscle for inspiration, contracting to expand the thoracic cavity and draw air into the lungs. The external intercostals assist by elevating the ribs, further aiding in chest expansion during inhalation. On the other hand, during expiration, especially active expiration, the internal intercostals and the abdominal muscles come into play. The internal intercostals help depress the ribs, reducing the thoracic volume, while the abdominals push the diaphragm upward, pushing air out of the lungs. In addition to these primary muscles, there are accessory muscles that become more active during labored breathing or respiratory distress. These include the sternocleidomastoid, which lifts the sternum, the scalene muscles that elevate the first two ribs, and the pectoralis minor, which can help expand the rib cage. Understanding how these muscles work together helps us grasp the mechanics of breathing and how the body adjusts during different respiratory demands. It's a coordinated effort between these muscles that allows efficient inhalation and exhalation, connecting to the overall theme of respiratory function and control. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. Let's take a closer look at how breathing works. When we inhale, the diaphragm contracts, which causes the thoracic volume to increase. This expansion creates a pressure difference, and air flows into the lungs. Conversely, during exhalation, the diaphragm relaxes and the thoracic volume decreases. This reduction in space pushes air out of the lungs. This process of contraction and relaxation of the diaphragm is fundamental to our mechanism of breathing, connecting the movement of airflow directly to the physical changes within our chest cavity. It's a simple yet efficient system that keeps us supplied with oxygen and removes carbon dioxide. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. The control of respiration is primarily managed by the medulla oblongata and the pons, which are parts of the brainstem. These areas act as the respiratory centers, coordinating the rhythm and depth of our breathing. They receive input from various sensors in the body that monitor the levels of carbon dioxide, oxygen, and the pH of the blood. When carbon dioxide levels rise or blood pH drops, these centers respond by increasing the rate and depth of breathing to help restore balance. Conversely, if oxygen levels are low, they also trigger adjustments to improve oxygen intake. This sophisticated feedback system ensures our breathing remains tightly regulated, supporting overall homeostasis and allowing us to adapt to different activities and conditions seamlessly. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. Let's go over some important clinical terms related to breathing and oxygenation. First, dyspnea refers to a sensation of difficulty breathing, which can be a sign of various underlying issues. Apnea, on the other hand, is the complete absence of breathing, and it's often a critical emergency that requires immediate attention. Tachypnea describes a rapid breathing rate, which can occur in response to hypoxia or other stresses. Conversely, bradypnea indicates a slow breathing rate, which might be seen with certain medications or neurological conditions. Hypoxia is a condition where there's low oxygen availability in the tissues, and that can lead to serious complications if not addressed promptly. Cyanosis is a bluish discoloration of the skin and mucous membranes that indicates significant hypoxia. Understanding these terms helps us better recognize and assess patients' respiratory status, which is essential for providing effective care and connecting the dots within the larger picture of respiratory health. Let's talk about some essential steps when assessing and supporting a patient's breathing. First, you want to assess the rate, rhythm, and depth of their breathing. This helps you determine if their breathing is normal or if there are any irregularities that need immediate attention. Next, maintaining airway patency is crucial. You want to make sure their airway remains open and unobstructed so they can breathe effectively. Then, administering oxygen is often necessary to ensure the tissues get enough oxygen, especially if there are signs of hypoxia. Finally, educating the patient on breathing exercises can be very beneficial. They help improve lung function and promote better breathing overall. Remember, these steps are vital in providing comprehensive respiratory care and support, reinforcing the overall theme of holistic patient management. Now, let's talk about some important nursing responsibilities when caring for patients with respiratory issues. First, it's crucial to constantly monitor for any signs of respiratory distress. This means keeping an eye on breathing rates, effort, and any signs of fatigue or difficulty. Checking pulse oximetry is also vital, as it gives us real-time information about the patient's oxygen saturation levels. Assist with interventions like chest physiotherapy, suctioning, and tracheostomy care as needed. These procedures help clear the airway and improve oxygenation. It's also important to be proactive in preventing hypoxia and aspiration, which can lead to further complications. Overall, these actions are key to ensuring the patient maintains optimal respiratory function and safety. By staying vigilant and providing timely interventions, we support better outcomes and help prevent deterioration. Gas exchange is absolutely vital for sustaining life because it's how our body gets the oxygen it needs and removes carbon dioxide. It involves both the upper and lower airways, which work together to ensure airflow reaches the lungs efficiently. The upper airways, like the nose and throat, filter and warm the air we breathe in, while the lower airways, including the trachea and bronchi, direct air into the lungs. Muscles also play a crucial role in breathing. The diaphragm and intercostal muscles contract and relax to create the pressure changes necessary for inhaling and exhaling. Without these muscles working properly, effective respiration can be compromised. Nursing care is essential in supporting and maintaining respiratory function. This includes monitoring breathing, assisting with positioning, and providing interventions when needed to ensure the patient's airway remains open and functioning optimally. In summary, understanding how gas exchange works and the importance of the airways and muscles helps us appreciate the vital role nurses play in maintaining respiratory health. It all ties back to ensuring that patients receive the oxygen they need for overall well-being and recovery. Now, let's take a look at the KUHS BSc Nursing syllabus. As part of our foundational knowledge, we rely heavily on key textbooks such as Ross and Wilson's Anatomy and Physiology, which provides a comprehensive understanding of the human body's structure and function. Additionally, Marib and Houghton's Human Anatomy and Physiology offer detailed insights into the physiological processes that keep us alive and healthy. These references are essential for building a solid theoretical base, which is critical for practical nursing skills. By integrating these resources into our learning, we ensure a thorough grasp of anatomy and physiology, essential for delivering quality patient care. Remember, these texts form the backbone of our curriculum and help connect the dots between theory and clinical practice.